So I'll say he, God, creator of the universe, knows every single thing, every tiny little single little anything that you can't even imagine.
Welcome. Today on the podcast, we had Donna Rebadow. Donna was a professor, a professional athlete, and is still an acupuncturist. She shared her incredible story of her near-death experience with us on the channel. If you haven't yet seen her film, check it out. Donna had an incredible near-death experience where she drowned in the lake and met the creator of the universe. Today, she shared her story with us. We got to have a great conversation about what she's doing now, her spiritual practices, how she stays connected to God and the angels and the other side in her day-to-day life, and had all sorts of interesting conversations around it. So please take a listen and hope you enjoy. Welcome, everyone. Today, we have the privilege of having Donna Rebadow with us. She was part of our season 1 that we interviewed and did a documentary film on. So if you haven't seen her film, please check it out. It's pretty incredible. For those that haven't seen the video yet, I would love to start, Donna, with that. Maybe you could give us kind of a brief couple-minute explanation of what your near-death experience was like. And then Jesse and I would love to pick your brain on all things post-NDE and integration and everything you've done since. So maybe you could share a little bit of whatever you feel called to with that experience.
Sure. It was July 25 years ago. This was my 25th anniversary of drowning. I was out with my family. We were playing on a lake toy and being swung around. And it was a matter of a freak accident, and the tow rope somehow got strangled around my leg. So the boat was stopped, and I looked down and I saw the rope around my leg and wondered, it's a plastic nylon rope. Why? How did it get on my leg? And I looked down and I thought, oh, this is going to strangle my leg. The boat started up. They didn't know that I was in trouble. They took off because there was a baby on board, and off they went. What happened then was, as they took off, the tow rope actually did strangle my leg and pull me under, even though I had a life jacket on. They didn't know I was there. And so no matter what I was going to do, I couldn't be MacGyver. There's nothing I could have done. I couldn't reach for the rope. And I saw the air bubbles leaving me. And I knew then how I was going to die. I was going to die on that lake. I was going to drown. So a couple of things were going through my head, like where were they going to have the funeral, in Arizona or New York? You know, how is all this going to happen? And the next thing I know, I left my body, and it was not anything that you would expect. So when people say that it was a function of my brain, like a hallucination, there's nothing that happened next that I had in my brain that I thought of that I would have ever expected. But I went through this little saran wrap kind of a veil. It felt like I actually left the 3D earth and went through this veil. And when I did, I realized a couple of things right away. Number one, oh, there's no time here. Now, who would have thought of that first? Who would have thought that your mind would have said, oh, there's no time here, it's eternity? And then the next thing that I realized, oh, I'm dead. I'm dead. And the next thing was something I never expected in a million years. It felt like I had a body, but I know I didn't have a body. I was dead. When people say near death, no, I actually was dead. I drowned, but I felt like I had a body, and my body started giggling. And I would have never expected my body to start giggling. Every cell in my body was vibrating, and I was like, what are you doing? So I didn't have eyes, but I had eyes. And I mean, I didn't, but I looked down on my body and I go, what are you guys doing? Why are you laughing? Why are you so excited and happy? And as I'm realizing that, I begin to see the edge of the earth, or what would appear to be the edge of the earth, and something coming up. And when I realized it was God, and the way that God presented himself to me was he used the words creator of the universe. He said, I am the creator of the universe. And I I looked back to the earth and I thought, oh, what about everybody else on earth? And then I heard another being or a voice say, don't worry about what's down on earth. And then I turned all my attention back to the creator of the universe, and then had the most amazing experience with God, or the creator of the universe. And it wasn't a person, it wasn't a being. God presented himself to me as a electrical energy field, as if he was the Aurora Borealis. And I'd been to Alaska and I've seen the Aurora Borealis since then, but at the time I hadn't. But it seemed as if this wave of energy of God was there. And then we started communicating telepathically. And it's this immediate knowledge of everything. And then he called me by my name, which is not Donna. And I didn't know how I felt about reincarnation. But at the time, when he said my name, I knew I had 1,000 lives. It was such a freaky thing. I don't know how to explain that. But he then began showing me how things worked on the earth. We began having conversations. He began showing me how magnificent he is. And even though I say he, it's not a he, she, or an it. But I say he because I have to say something. I have to say, instead of just keep saying the creator, God, I can say that. But he started showing me lots and lots of things. And then I don't know how much time has passed because there's no time. So it's hard for me to explain the difference between time and eternity, because I don't know how much time went by when I realized that I was being asked the question of, what did I want to do here? Did I want to live? Did I want to go back? I believe I was being given a choice of what I wanted to do, but the amount of love, and I've heard other people's NDEs, and we can't quite explain what this overpowering love, you just so don't want to go back. And then I said something that I never thought I would say in a million years. I said, well, since you made me, I give the choice to you. And then a series of things happened really quickly. I began to understand the power of choice, of what that really meant. When we're here on this earth and we're given the power of choice, it means choice by every second of everything that we do is a choice. And I had just given my choice away. And then I had to wait. So then I understood surrender, because surrender means, okay, I gave you my choice and now I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to be gone? Am I going to cross that barrier where I'm really never coming back? So I've come up with two different kinds of concepts. One, near dead, and dead. So what that meant was I was actually dead. So when people say near-death experience, I was actually dead, but I wasn't quite permanently dead. And I have no idea how to explain that, except I was given an option that I could have come back. And then surrender, to come back and be able to give a message of this idea of choice and surrender. But I was waiting. I was just hanging out, waiting for, am I going to, I felt a delineation, a line that if I was getting closer to that, I was never coming back. So I was just kind of hanging out by this line. And next thing I know, I'm being plummeted back to the earth. And I hear, good answer. And I think the good answer seemed to me to be surrender. The ability to give into your ego and do something for the greater good, because I know he wanted me to come back and give some ideas about choice. So I came back, snapped into my body. I was full of water because I was drowned, and I was underwater. So some hands came under my armpits and lifted me up, and then helped me. It didn't pound on my back, but I was just, all this water was coming out of me. And I knew I was going to live, but I looked at my leg and I thought it was amputated, but it was strangled to the bone. So when I looked at it, all I saw was my quad and my calf. So I grabbed my leg, because I knew if I kicked, that I would kick my leg off. And I wanted to have it with me at the emergency room in case they could sew it back on. So I just held on to it. And my sister was with me, and she came over and she helped me with going into shock. And then when we got to the hospital, we realized it was not an amputation, but a strangulation. And it just kept swelling and swelling and swelling. And they kept giving me medicine for the swelling and I swallowed a lot of Giardia. My lungs are really bad left from it. My leg is mangled left from it. But I'm here for 25 years giving a message of hope and peace and love.
How, it's twofold. One is, how do you, how do you stay focused and disciplined? Because I get that. I'm like, oh yeah, love is amazing. Service is amazing. I want to do more of that. But I get so distracted, whether it's reading the news or endless things, watching a movie, or and then there's lots of things that I do around the house and as a father, as a husband, et cetera, but doing work. But, so that's the first half is, how do you keep coming back to I'm going to go back to my book and I'm going to pray for someone or ask an angel for someone. To me, that's so admirable. And then the second part is, I think I watched a previous podcast of yours and you talked about your meditation practice, which is quite extensive. So maybe you could share a little bit about what your meditation practice is, and is that partly how you do so much goodness in the world?
Great question. I'm organized, and I organize my room. I have a workshop in my garage to make, I bend spoons with my energy and make art out of it. I'm a jeweler, so I have a workshop, and I have everything organized in my workshop. Then I come into my house, and I have my podcast all organized on this desk. And I go to my left, and I have all my music organized. I'm a guitarist and a flautist and a percussionist. I have that all organized. And then I have my room organized. And I have it organized around books and things I want to read or I want to do. And then I have a couch where I do nothing. I don't spend time there. So my meditation, I have over 200 guided meditations on my iPhone. I allow my angels to help me, guide me for what I need specifically. So people ask me, do you sleep? Yes, I sleep. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I have to watch NFL football. So I just go from thing to thing to thing to thing. I flow. That's the choice, the flow of choice of what is it. And I also check in with God. Is it, what would you, it's not like he's telling me what to do because I have free will, but I'm like, I'm going to do this podcast with these guys. Is there something you want me to read or do or quickly look at before the podcast? Yes. Okay. I did that. All right. Is there something, I have my ALS person coming over. Is there some kind of new, in my anatomy books, can I look up something really quick? Yeah. Okay. I can do that. So to me, it's organized and quick. So that I'm not here to have downtime. I'm not here to, I don't know if I'd be a good person for lazy boy. The furniture, it's more like, people ask me, well, where do you get your energy? Because I get the energy from the universe. I don't get it's not my energy. It's the energy that I tap in from my Qigong and Tai Chi practices. And so it's not like I'm just being busy for busy work. I sit and I'm very specific about what needs to be done next. And if I actually do need to lay down and read a book, I actually took a book out of the library yesterday, and I think I'm going to read it within the next couple of days. So, I mean, does that make sense? So being organized and being focused, and I'm not married. I don't have kids. I do have dogs. I do have a roommate. I do have things. I think it would be different if I was married. I really believe that. And marriage was so important to me that I knew that was going to be the biggest choice that I would make on the planet. So when you married guys and you got kids and you have responsibilities, makes it so much harder than from what I do. I have a lot of freedom, and so it allows me to be organized and do stuff.
That makes a ton of sense. I have another question. There's so many incredible facets to your story, to your near-death experience. One thing that we saw some comments about on your film, and curious about the name that God called you. Obviously, I know you don't share that because it's private. I was just wondering if you could say anything about that. It's a pretty incredible facet that's unique, where there was a unique name or just a way that God knew you, and it seems like it connects to reincarnation for you. I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, some of the comments were they wanted to know everything. People want to know everything, and so I started telling people stuff. And you know what? It was just a curiosity thing. And like you said, we're vulnerable, and they didn't honor the sacredness of my vulnerability. So it's very hard to be very vulnerable like this. And some of the comments were not, they got to understand about karma. But with regard to God and my name was shocking to me. And it had to do with my early childhood and my voice. And it had to do with me, particularly between me and God and my voice in my childhood. And when I was coming toward him and he said my name, everything in my entire universe changed, because I knew that I was here forever just for him. And it made me feel like the only reason he created the universe was for me by calling me that name. And it was a name that's not a name on this planet. It's not a planetary name. It's not a name anybody would recognize. I don't even know if I could use the syllables correctly to say it. It was it's not words like, hey, Jesse, hey, Elliot, hey, Donna. It's not that. It is it's an electrical field energy transport that goes into every part of whoever your consciousness is, and it saturates you. And it's like, I can't even verbalize. I can't even say the name, but when you hear it, you're home. And I'm not sure if I heard too many other near-death experience people say that. I thought everybody had that name. So I've been kind of confused about, was that something he was doing to heal me from this extreme childhood trauma? It was in this lifetime, a very terrible trauma that I experienced. And I don't know if he said that, but it felt like to me it was my name for all millennium. And so I know that's my name. I know that he and I have that. That's my name. I'll never forget it. I'll never, it's like, goes to my core. And have you guys ever heard of anybody else saying that? Is there anybody else that has said that?
No, it just makes me think of like your soul essence. It's like this, God knows each of us by our soul. And so.
And maybe he just used my name because he knew remember I said it was a designer death. There were two things, one dead, and designer death. Like, why don't all these near-death experiencers all have the same experience? And so I say it's a designer death because he knows us to our soul, to our nth degree. And that's what it felt like. That name is my soul essence name that is sacred to my core.
I know. And I was rewatching your film last night, and one thing that jumped out at me was, and that some people comment on actually, well, because, the thing you shared was when God showed you the number of grains of sand in New Zealand beach, and then said that he knew how much hair you had on your head. And it did strike me of like, wow, does God know how each strand of hair on each of our heads it's so thorough. It's incredible. Of course, we're made from God, I believe. And then I think a lot of the commenters, I guess that's a quote in the Bible, right? Because some people, one thing that's been interesting for us is doing this channel is, reading the comments and stuff, and what people that have an idea of what God is and maybe have a religion, and then they hear like your story or other people's stories, and then they'll comment and say, I don't know if I believe your story. It doesn't fit. It's what I think. I find that kind of fascinating. But yeah, I did. People notice that, I guess in the Bible, God had said that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I do know so I'll say he, God, creator of the universe, knows every single thing, every tiny little single little anything that you can't even imagine. I think in the Bible it says God's ways are high above your ways, or your ways are not the ways of God, or whatever. That was what was so not shocking, but revolutionary. It was very revolutionary to think about. The knowledge base was never ended. It never ended. And that's why I think about the eternity, that funky thing between time and eternity. It's like you could blow through this space gazillion, 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 gazillion. And the knowledge base is just incredible. And he knows everything. And that was what was said to me was, I know everything. As I said to him, you know everything, because it was such a thing for me to see. Like, oh my God, you know everything. And why would you pick a beach in New Zealand? Why wouldn't you pick a beach in New York? Or why, I don't understand that, or the hairs on my head. He was using that to say, I have created everything. I know everything. And so every single thing, it's just mind-boggling to me.
It certainly is. It reminds me, of like ants or insects or a puppy, or they're just in their own world. And then like they look up and they have no idea that you've been like watching them, and you're just, hey, let me feed you. Let's go for a walk. It's just like we think we're living our lives, and suddenly we become aware that there's an intelligence, a being. We're just so much beyond our normal awareness.
Yeah, and I was reading a book about that, because people would say to me, well, this is a product of the hallucination of your dying brain. And a guy wrote a book, The End to Upside Down Thinking. And I really liked what he said about that. And there's another one, Flatlander, guy wrote in the late 1800s, Flatlander. And it's about how two-dimensional beings have no idea what a three-dimensional being would be. They'd be freaked out. Here they are, there's a squiggle or a line on a page, and all of a sudden height comes along. Wow, what is height? Oh my God, who are you? It's like this freaky book. And so we have no idea. We're like you said, Jesse, you were talking about how many people are coming to awareness. Monroe talks about this. Bob Monroe talked about, we are more than our physical self. And you asked me, Elliot, about my meditation, and I meditate all the time about, as an athlete, I thought I was my body. I thought I was my athlete body. And so I would say, yeah, I'm my body, but I'm not my body. And I would say, I am my thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. So these are esoteric, hard concepts to meditate on. And I spend a lot of time meditating on these concepts. I'm not just my body. Yes, I'm my body. You punch me, I'm going to hurt. You strangle my leg, I'm going to hurt. I get that. But I'm more than that. I'm more than my physical body. I'm more than my thoughts. I'm this magnificent, loved, beyond anything I could get my head around, how loved I am, and how many beings and angels that surround me, that help me, that it's more people. And I understand why people say I don't believe you, because it's not in their realm of possibility. They have this view of, this is how I can live. And remember, I teach psychology. I'm a professor. One of my subjects is psychology, and we would talk about how people think, and you have to think certain ways in order to survive. You can't be just totally 100% wide open, and you have to have a structure, a belief system. So I tell my students, okay, We construct knowledge. I tell you the ABCs. I'm constructing an alphabet. I'm constructing these mathematics. I'm constructing these things. And as you get older and you realize, wait a minute, what happened to zero? Where did zero come from? And you start deconstructing math, and you start deconstructing the knowledge that you have. And then you start constructing it back up again. And then if you live to be as long as I have, you've done this like about 5 times, and you're like, we are more, I don't know if you're going to cut this part out because this is so esoteric. People are like, what the hell is she talking about? It's more, we're so much more in it. And it's an awareness, and it's education, and it's stretching yourself and being open to the possibilities.
I know we're coming up on the hour, so I have my final question for you, which is, again, another 2-parter. One is you meeting face-to-face with the creator of the universe and experiencing that love must have been so powerful. So I'm curious about how you continue that now the rest of your life, like touching into that. And then the second piece is, how can others of us that haven't had that experience, how can we touch that love, that talking to the angels? Is it kind of just faith? Do we just practice it? Or I just think a lot of people struggle with how to do that.
That's a great question. One, to answer your first question, after seeing the creative universe and then being back in this 3D world for 25 years, is it hard? It's the hardest thing I've ever been asked to do. But every night when we can fall asleep, we can enter into those realms. So that's where I do the meditation. I follow a guy by the name of Tom Campbell, My Big Theory of Everything, and he has a book called Tom's Park. And it helps people try to get out of themselves, especially when they're going to try to meditate. So you don't have to be a big transcendental meditator. You don't have to set aside the number of hours that I do. It's more of, there's an exercise I did when I was in my early 30s, and it's be still and know that I am God. And I sat there and I would just sit there and go, be still and know that I am God. And it wasn't that I am God, I'm meditating upon who God might be. And then a few minutes later, I go, be still and know that I am. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still. Be. That exercise went a long way for me in my early 30s of quieting myself down, quieting the monkey mind, because people will sit there and go, I can't meditate because I'm thinking about a million things. And I would say, take a notebook, sit down, take a notebook, say, be still and know that I am God. Oh, I got a grocery list. Write down the dang grocery list. Then go back to be still and know that I am. Oh, I got to do this later. Write that down on your next page. Keep practicing being still. And that's why I like Michael Singer's Untethered Soul, or I like reading, I read a lot to try to say, how can I be still and listen? Can I listen? And remember I talked to you about signs and wonders and bumper stickers and music and books and things like that. I don't let those go by. So I was in the grocery store the other day with my roommate, and we were looking for something, and I was getting a little frazzled. And I went, oh, here it comes again. You better start, slow down. And a song came on in the store that has meaning to me from a Dr. Joe Dispenza workshop. And it's a stupid song. It's Cake by the Ocean. It's Cake by the Ocean. But what it meant to me was, I'm here, Donna. That song has meaning to you. Just calm down, quiet yourself. It's a nonsense thing, but it's a reminder of, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be this great, go to Tibet and live on top of the mountain. It's like, where are you now? Bloom where you're planted. What are you doing right now? Just make a choice right now today for 5 minutes. Look at your day. Look at your puppies. Look at your shoulder. Look at your rehab. Look at your day just for today. Can you carve out 5 minutes and sit in a room? And I don't care if you have music or meditation or whatever, and just sit there and say, hey, guardian angel, you got a name for me? Because you're going to think it's your voice. You're going to hear your voice. You're going to say, yeah, my name's Michael. Oh, that was just me just saying that. Okay, then I'll say, Next day, 5 minutes again. Okay, Angel, do you have a name for me? Michael. Okay. Is it really Michael? Can you give me a sign? A bumper sticker or a book or whatever. And the next day in the mail, I get a book from Michael Singer. And I go, okay, I'm taking that. I'm going to take that. If that was my guardian angel talking to me and telling me his name was Michael, I'm going to start there, and I'm not going to worry about it. Does that make sense? You start somewhere, and you just gotta know that it's going to be your voice. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. It's going to be, but can you just be open to some possibilities?
Yeah. I think of it sometimes it's like a relationship, and you just nurture it. And sometimes it's just like, hey, anybody there? Okay. But that echo, we have no concept. Again, the ripple effect, or there could be a chorus coming back to us. We can't hear it, but that sometimes I think of that, just like put in a little bit of energy into the relationship to the other side.
And it's probably not going to be a voice. It's probably going to be, of all the clairvoyance, clairsentience, all those clairs, where you have precognition and all that. It's going to be just, probably not a voice. It's probably not going to be a sight. Your guardian angel isn't usually going to walk up to you and talk to you. It's just going to be still for a minute. Let's try this. Don't give up. Just keep looking for signs and wonders. And by the way, my guardian angel did show up to me in person when I was 19 years old. And I found that out through a medium, told me that was my angel. Saved my life. So it can happen. Can happen. But just to be patient people. Patience, be open to possibilities. Stop. If you find yourself going like this, I can't believe her because it's not in my realm of my possibilities. It's okay. You all do not have to believe me. However, what I do ask you to do is, one, this is my experience. So please don't tell me I didn't have it. It's mine. You can't, have your own. Number two, it's like can you be open to the possibility? Just one little crack in the window, in the door, just one, just for today, just try one possibility. Then go back to your old, I got my list. It can't happen. You're a jerk. You're blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. It makes me think of when you say that, this is your experience. How can people question it? And one of my favorite moments of your film is when you say that you said, how can people question, you have experienced love here and you've experienced love on the other side. And it's like, nobody can take that away. You had that distinct experience. And I love the way you articulate that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like, I know you haven't had it. I know you haven't had it. And don't ask for it. Please, people, do not ask for a near-death experience. We're crippled. A lot of us are crippled. We're not really excited about it. But just to, don't call me names. You can disagree with me, but don't say I'm lying. Why would I? Really?
Is it hard when you read comments? Is the positives must be wonderful, or if you're inspiring someone, and then these negative ones, that's got to be hard. Or do you just kind of let it wash over you? Don't take it personal.
That's a great question. I started reading them and then stopped because there's one guy that was so vile that said he went on my Instagram or I don't know where he went, and said, "Oh, Donna believes this, and this because she wrote this." And I went, I don't even know I believe that. I'm a lover. I love. How can you say that? So I stopped reading. I went, good luck to you. I'm a social influencer. Good luck.
There's mostly such positives.
Oh, good. Tell me. Because I did not go back.
No, I think you should. Sometimes from the channel, the Coming Home channel, will heart the really great ones, the touching ones. Good. I wonder if there's a way, Jay, do you know if you can go on the video and you can look at, I think you can select the ones that we heart. Maybe that is an easier way. That way you can just get the good stuff.
Or they get the comments are ranked by upvoting, by how many people like them. So often the top ranked comments are all positive because people like them. But it is hard with some of the negativity. And it's Elliot and I deal with this where we're putting out what we believe are just films about goodness, about spirituality, and people are just sharing. And it's amazing the amount of negative. It's one of those
archetypes. Like, did you watch that? What?
Yeah. It's like,
so what I do with that is, what I did was before I stopped reading it, as I remember, I like to make lists. So I have a list, and I sent, I don't know how many angels I sent to that guy. I just want, I sent, but I thought, no, I don't, I want to stop doing that for a while. I don't, it is what it is. People, it is what it is. But for the negative, I was shocked. And I just was like, okay, I don't want to spend a time on a negative list, but I will have a group of beings that will go take care of that for me.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, I will just share, so many people loved your humor, your spirit, the energy, and your story. That's one of the themes of the comments, is just like, and I agree. That's why we wanted to interview you. This joyfulness and humor and goofiness, like,
goofy. I am.
No, but in the best way, because sometimes it's very serious, that people.
It just shows. It shows it's not all so serious, that there's can be humor, and I personally think the way you narrate the death experience of drowning, and you're like, you share it in a way that's lighthearted. Like, you're thinking, what am I going to do at my funeral?
Yeah, I was.
But I think that so many people have so much fear around the dying process that it kind of brought some levity or humanness to it, I thought, in a great way.
Yeah, it was immediate, and I was shocked. I was like, oh, what's going on? Oh, I'm dead. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know the creator has a sense of humor.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And people got mad about me saying, oh shit. You think I swear it? I go, look, here's what happened. Here's what happened to me when I realized the gravity of the situation. And I turned and I went, I could have said, what have I done? What have I? But people forget I'm an athlete. And so athletes sometimes will say a bad word. I don't say it all the time, but I want, and I asked my angels before, should I say that? Because people will be upset. And they said, did you say, oh shit? Yeah. Then say, oh shit, because you said, oh shit. We heard you.
Very human, which we all can relate to.
And we have one of our films, Chris Batts, is one of the
Chris,
and he curses all the time in it, and there'll be these fascinating comment threads, whole dialogues where a lot of people, maybe more Christian or religious folks, they'll be like, "Oh, this is horrible, the cursing."
This is horrible.
And then somebody will respond to them saying, "Well, the God of the universe seems to love him unconditionally. So maybe you need to work on your judgmentalness, because if God is embracing
judgmentalness, and he's laughing. He was laughing because he knew, he saw me turn. He saw me go, oh, and he was laughing. He was laughing because he goes, you, my child, this is who you are.
Yeah.
This is who you are, and I love you. So I'm going to say, I said that, but,
Right.
In interviewing you before, Donna, I was curious about this piece around choice, right? Because that is a big part that you articulated, the message that you got. On one hand, from your story, you gave your choice over to the creator, to God. And it's almost, there's two sides. One was you were like, oh no, what did I do? You gave away the sacred, powerful thing that we have, choice, maybe free will. But on the other hand, I love how you heard God's voice say, good answer, because I've thought of that sometimes, or I've heard, surrender or do God's will is a high thing. It's a powerful thing to do. So how do you reconcile that? Both the answer you gave and the response to that?
That is such an incredibly great question. And I think the person on the planet that has answered it best is Michael Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul. And what it means is that when you are going with the flow of life, and you're not trying to control it. And you are, I don't know how to say it without conflict. Let's use conflict. So I have a conflict with someone, and rather than I've got to be right. I've got to convince you that I am right and you are wrong. Or I have to make sure that you're going to give me I've asked you for a raise. I'm forcing things on the planet. I'm forcing you to see my point of view. I'm forcing you to agree with me. Seems to be a force versus a surrender to ego. And that is every time I'm sitting here, I have to make a choice for the greater good. And it doesn't mean, a lot of times people ask me, well, that means you be a doormat. That means surrendering means that you sit there and you go, Donna, look, I want you to get on an airplane and get over here to California. I don't care what it costs you. And you need to do this right away. Me saying for the greater good, Elliot, I don't have that money right now. Maybe we can negotiate, or maybe we can figure out some kind of compromise, or we can make sure that we have a win-win situation. So I'm not a doormat. I'm not just blindly doing whatever it is that you ask me to do. I am sitting here saying, what's the best way I can think about this for the greater outcome? That's one aspect of it. But it's not just one aspect. It's a very complex thing, choice. It's not just about being a doormat or saying yes or no or whatever. It's about, how can is there something I can sacrifice here? So there's a part of sacrifice that's in that too, that I want to, here's a good one. I'm a sports medicine acupuncturist, you guys. I work with elite and professional athletes. I got an opportunity to go to the Olympics and work with certain athletes. They called me up and said, Donna, there's a spot open. We want you to come to the Olympics. It's my dream. I always wanted to go to the Olympics. And so here's what I said. I have a person here that I'm dealing with ALS. I am here for one patient. I am saving this man's life. If I go to the Olympics and I'm there for a month, that's a month of no quality for this man with ALS. So in the flow, in the choice that I made, I chose not to go to the Olympics so that I can needle this man every single day who has ALS. For 3 years, every single day, he's not missed a day of work. He's not been in leg braces. He's not been in a wheelchair. His family hasn't had to bury him. That, to me, is the greatest choice a human being can do. That kind of sacrifice to, well, if I don't get to the Olympics, who's going to care? Who's going to know? But for that one man, that ALS man who lives every day, that's the greater choice. And that's a true story.
Yeah.
That's a true story. I live in Denver and I live in Phoenix because my ALS patient's in Denver. I got called up by an NFL team just this week. So Donna, we need you to come to Phoenix and we need you to take care of this guy right away. He needs you. Because and I'm not saying it like ego. I just happen to have the skills. I have these crazy acupuncture skills. And so I talked to the man and I said, I told him the same thing. I have an ALS patient. I could fly into Phoenix. I could do an evaluation, but I couldn't stay long to work with you very, very long. And that man said, for the greater good, I love what you're doing with your ALS patient. I can find someone. And his sacrifice of knowing that I could be there, I could have done that, I could have helped him. He said, it's okay. It's okay. We'll find somebody. Those kinds of things, to me, are the important choices. And yet there's still everyday choices. I told you that in the film about how I think about certain people. So you're walking, let's say a mall, or you're around a lot of people. check how you think about people, check how you look at people, check how, oh, that guy has this different, look at his clothes or look at his hair, or look at his, don't do that. Those kind of choices are also have an energetic signature too. So to come back and say, when you look at a human person, when you look at a human being, what good can you see in them instead of looking at how they're dressed or how they're clothed or whatever? Is there something in their circumstances? What can I do to help? And I'll only tell you one other story because my father loves this story. My father's on the other side. So I played professional fast pitch softball. So I was a professional athlete. And I mean, signed contracts on television back in the day. And we played doubleheaders. And in between the doubleheaders, we left the field, but there was an area where fans can come and get autographs. We were told never to give an autograph to anybody. And there's this little guy. He's in a wheelchair. I love this little kid. Donna, can I have an autograph? I stopped. I knelt down. I handed him an autograph. We became friends. I actually ended up going to one of his wheelchair basketball games. I got in trouble. I got fined. My dad said when he saw that, I'm 20-some-year-old kid. He knew right then and there that he knew that he helped me knew how to make choices. And I think that's the Father in heaven, God the Father. He knows he can call on me in any time, anywhere, just about for anything. And he will remember my little fan, my Olympic athlete, and my football player. Those are the kinds of things to come back and say, how can you make life better with even the smallest little choices you make about kneeling down and giving an autograph, even if you get fined?
It's really what so many spiritual teachings and paths talk about is these small choices, these small moments of prioritizing others over oneself. And I love that in the film you talked about that, the thing that we all really do, judging or thinking about people looking at their clothing, looking at that person looks funny to us or different, but to remember that, and this is what I love about the phenomenon of NDEs is people have direct experiences of life reviews or download about how even our thoughts ripple out and affect not just ourselves, but others, and how we can all continually refine how we act, how we think, intention and choice in every moment.
And I don't want to come across like I'm the Saint Donna, because I have what's different about me with my NDE. I have a life review every day. Most people, when they die, they have their life review right then and there. But for 25 years, every day, I have a life review of some circumstance in my life where I was not really making good choices. And I have to live through that moment. Again, let me use my professional softball. We have our names on the back of our uniforms, Rebadow, and somebody said something very disparaging about my name and whatever. And I turned and I said something not nice. It was not nice back.
What, Donna?
I know, it's hard to believe. And I was very mean. So in one of my life reviews, I had to go back and see from their point of view why they did what they did, why they said what they said, then my effect, my words on them, and then how they lived the rest of that. I think it was like 2 or 3 days. I don't remember anymore. How my words coming back to them affected them in such a negative way that affected their family, that affected the next person, that affected the next person. So I get that every day. I get a life review every day. I will get, and you go, wait a minute, it's been 25 years, 365 days. Did you have that many bad things? No, I get a life review where things did happen good. When I was a college professor, and so I gave my students a choice. Here, you guys, you're in my class. Okay, here's the choice. You can go with me to the Andre house and serve the homeless. You're going to feed the homeless. You can go with me to Crisis Nursery and rock a crack baby, or you can write a term paper. Which do you want? And I gave my students those are actual choices I gave my students. And so I got to see how it affected. I had a blind student, and she went to Andre House and did the soup kitchen. And I got to see in one of my life reviews, by me being a professor and making that assignment and allowing my blind student, allowing her to be on the soup kitchen, allowing her to give bread to a hungry homeless man. I got to see that for a week of it. So it wasn't necessarily directly me and that homeless man, but it was me making a choice so my student can feed the homeless man. So these ripple effects are amazing. So yeah, that's what I get to see every single day for 25 years.
That is something that I love about near-death experiences. And one of the things I'm fascinated about is exactly that, the ripple effects. Is people, experiencers talk about that. It's like the power of our thoughts and the powers of our actions. And it goes both ways, or so it seems. You do something negative, and others, just like your experience, share that you can see, that if you say something or do something negative to a person, they internalize that. It impacts their thoughts, their self-esteem. They take it out on their family member, their dog, the next person they interact with. It's like an energy. It takes a long time maybe to diminish. It just kind of keeps going. But then the most amazing thing, or like the good news, is you do that in a positive way, right? Ultimately love or compassion, that ripples also and impacts the next person and the next. It's kind of wild to think about and inspiring. So I love thinking about that.
And plus it takes practice too, because remember, I'm old. And so I've had a lot of practice. And so I've taught myself little triggers. So when I catch myself, I try to catch myself immediately. So whenever I'm out somewhere and I can begin to think that thought process about, and it kind of starts with, oh, look at that, whatever. And I go, oh, something's coming. I do not want to see this on a life review in a bad way. So let's think about, and it's not just doing, like, I'm not being kind just so I don't have a bad life review. It's practice over time where you actually begin to see that, that old saying, everyone is dealing with something that you can't see. Every single person. And so a lot of times, I know I love Lorna. And she talks about her guardian angels, and I love sending angels to do things. And I hadn't talked about that. So I have a cadre of angels, beings. And so how I use them is they have, I call them by name, and I will say, okay, and let me say Michael. Michael, Elliot's having shoulder surgery and I can't be there. What I would like to do, would you please send unemployed angels? There are no unemployed angels in my world. I will employ them and I will send them to your room, to your operating room, to your nurses, to your places, to the instruments, to the people making the instruments, to So I spend a lot of time doing all this stuff because I want you to have a successful shoulder surgery or successful puppies. And so I keep a book and I keep a list. And because of you guys, I get a lot of emails, and I just keep a list. And I have my book, and I'll put Elliot shoulder surgery or Jesse new puppy or whatever it is. And then as I'm going to sleep, those angels are all over that book. All over that book. You do this, please do this, please do this, please do this, knowing that we have free will and angels don't like to be bossed around. And I get yelled at by them sometimes for being, saying, no, we're not going to do that, Donna. But I want people to be aware of how close heaven really is, how close beings really are, how much help we really have.
It's so amazing. I love this, Donna. And it's making me think, obviously, I'm in Puppyville. I just got a puppy 2 weeks ago. But what's interesting is we're really working to train him. And when it's interesting because we've been watching videos and working with a trainer, I always think, our poor puppy, like if we have to train him to stay or go in the crate, or, we're trying to practice opening the front door and he doesn't go running out. You have to make him sit and stay. And it's so sad in a way because you open the door and he just wants to go running out. But this trainer in this video series we're watching said, don't think of it like the dog is suffering, that the dog has to be away from you and the dog can't go through the door. Actually, you're challenging the puppy. You're giving the puppy something to do. And puppies and dogs, especially smart dogs, they love having a challenge. They love having something to do. And in their mind, they're thinking their number one priority is making you happy. And because when you're happy, you give them love, you give them a treat, or you just love them up. And so they're so focused on making you happy in a way. And so it actually was a light bulb moment for me of like, we're giving our puppy something to do. We're challenging him. And actually it's so rewarding for him to have to do something like that. And I love that because that's just the light bulb is with angels, because Lorna talks about unemployed angels, where there's angels and they want us to talk to them. They want us to give them things to do. And their form of suffering is just sitting there. And humans are so busy that we don't even pay attention. We don't even know they exist. But I love what you're talking about because it's like you giving them tasks. I can imagine them loving that. That's what they want more than anything, is to do something useful. It's such a cool practice you have.
And it's signs and wonders too, because I let people, like, well, I don't hear my angels. I don't see my angels. How come you do? I said, they're talking to you all the time. They talk through music. They talk through signs, bumper stickers, people, books. For example, within the next 2 weeks, Jesse, I am publishing a book called Wednesdays with Sadie, the Miracle Dog. And this book is about me training a seeing eye dog who got catastrophically ill. So the first part is how to train a guide dog, how to love a dog through a catastrophic illness. I promised God if he would allow Sadie to live, we'd do something special. So 4.5 years, every Wednesday, Sadie and I were a pet therapy team with kids at a hospital in Phoenix. And it's the stories of her as a medical intuitive. So it's tasking angels, it's tasking people, it's tasking sentient beings. I don't spend a whole lot of time doing nothing. I spend a lot of time doing things. And we're not human doings, we're human beings. I get that, but I mean, it's how can I make this world better every single second, all the time on the entire planet. It's constant. Thinking about kids, dogs, people, homeless, everything. How can I use my beingness to help the entire sentient universe?
Well, I know we're here at time, Donna. I feel like we could keep talking for hours. There's so many other comments and questions, but I'd love to have you back on another time. And yeah.
You're welcome to have me back on as long as they don't take me back. Right now, they will not let me know that, but they're letting me get through a couple more projects. So I don't know what that means, but
got it. Well, we'll be sending.
I love you guys, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you know how much I love you guys? I do. I swear. You're very special. You're very talented. The work that you're doing, you're making yourself vulnerable. You have a lot of responsibility, and I love that you've said yes to your angels.
Thank you.
That means a lot.
Thank you,
That means
Donna.
a lot. I've loved also developing a relationship with you too, Donna, and seeing you in Phoenix in person. And I took great heart from everything you shared with the surgery. So I've thought of you many times, and it's lovely to see you again. I'm glad you're doing well.
Yeah, doing well.
Well, take care, Donna.
Until next time. Yeah.